Good afternoon from Britain. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome in. Happy Thursday. How's your week going, folks? Good to see you all. Already have some subs coming in. Little Shirley Beans, thank you so much for the 2 months. I also missed on thanking Zoop Shooter for the 15 months on last night's stream. If you haven't seen last night's stream and you are an adult, because the game is not necessarily for kids, me and Zloy XP streamed Elden Ring yesterday. I was very excited for this one. We may be doing a bit more either this weekend or probably the next Wednesday. I had a great time. It was super fun, and the first kind of like proper 18+ mature stream I've done, at least for a long while. And yeah, it was all good. It all went very well. Just been enjoying watching that from his perspective on the VODs today. So if that at all interests you and you didn't manage to catch yesterday's, I will put it up on my VODs channel on YouTube with the obvious caveats of it being a mature rated game, and hopefully people will check that out because I had a blast. It was super fun. Right. Today, though, we're back on Empires for some Minecraft. We're back in family-friendly mode. All of the, like, mature content filters and stuff should be off the channel again, so if you have any, like, if you run into any of that, then let me know, because I probably didn't remove it correctly or something. And yes, Zloy did tinker with the opening cutscene of Elden Ring just a little, which was quite funny. But, yeah, it's a fun game. So today we're Cliffin. We're going to be back on Empires. We're going to be building the Cliff Plateau, what I'm thinking of now as the Grand Plateau, the ancient capital, because I just have to rip off everything from Elden Ring. And the thing about streaming Elden Ring alongside work from Empires is that you guys really get to see where the influences came in for this series beyond what I've already showed, like, on camera and in occasional images from streams. So, yeah, playing more Elden Ring is definitely getting me inspired to build in Minecraft. So that is what we're doing. I'm the only one online right now, which is good, because it means I can sleep. I just went out to get some more rooted dirt, because I have a ton of this, like, plateau, grass, dirt, cliffside kind of thing to build. But so far it's going quite well. I also ran into a huge copper vein while I was digging down, but obviously copper was not my priority. Yeah, up here is the bit I've been working on. So we've added some andesite to the top of this since last time you saw it, I think. And there's some tough, mossy cobblestone blending into moss, coarse dirt, rooted dirt, packed mud, as though it's been kind of like there's a trail that's been worn in it over time from people exploring. And I've started working on these kind of like boulder formations, which aren't necessarily like the next step up on the cliff, but I really wanted to have a couple of things like this to give a bit more context to the area. We started doing stuff like that this time, but I wanted to work on some formations that looked good in Minecraft whilst also, you know, obstructing your way. You can't, like, necessarily run through this. You can maybe hop over it if you find the right kind of path up, but I like the idea of these kind of things being around as natural obstacles in the landscape. Any thoughts on Samurai as a first playthrough of Elden Ring? I think, honestly, it's a decent class to start with, because I really love katanas. They have a really good moveset. So give it a try, yeah. If you're picking up Elden Ring for the first time, you could do a lot worse. Just don't choose the Sabriri's Woe keepsake, and you'll be fine. Honestly, any of the starting classes, if you don't like the way they play, you can modify them as you go, or you can just start again, and it's not that bad. So, worth doing. Looking amazing, can't wait to see the rest built up. Yeah, so we're going to do a lot of that on stream. We're not going to finish any of this, obviously, because it's a long project, but this is going to be something that will take me multiple weeks. The bell is still ringing at the museum, but that's fine. I'm just going to hop in here and pop away all of this copper stuff that I happen to have ended up with. There we go. And I'll put the bones and stuff away because we won't be bone. In fact, if I bone meal anything up there, it's probably going to cause more problems than it fixes. So we'll avoid that. And then in my ender chest, I have the shulker boxes full of material that we can use to start some building. Don't know why I ever thought that was meant to be a defensive wall for the ancient city. Was it ever supposed to be? This? No, this is just a cliff. This is a natural stone formation. Let's see, let's grab moss. Moss from there. We've got some other bits and pieces around. That's my backup gear, so that's where that should go. And that's everything, I think. If we need more, we can get more. We may end up farming a couple more bits of material on stream today as well. So far, what's the craziest things Lloyd tried to do in Elden Ring? So at the beginning, when you start out, there's a dungeon that you need some stone sword keys to get into. Basically, you need to find these keys, or you can opt to start with them as part of your character instead of taking, like, an amulet that increases your health, or one of the golden seeds that, you know, increases the amount of times you can heal. He took the stone sword keys because he'd seen from playing through when we tested it out that there was a gate there that requires some stone sword keys. The reason it requires 2 keys is that you're meant to come back there later once you've leveled up a bit and you're used to something that's a bit more challenging. So we decided to do that almost immediately, or at least that's the way he wanted to go. And then he realized he was getting poisoned right away and then stopped. But we went back there much sooner than I expected us to, and we did surprisingly well. There is a boss down there that was too difficult for us to beat at the time, but we did all right. And so I expect we will be coming back there at some stage once we feel a little bit more confident to take on that boss. So I have a lot of rooted dirt now. I went and took down the roots of a couple of azalea trees, like naturally spawned ones, because there are like stacks upon stacks of rooted dirt underneath those instead of having to farm it manually using azalea. And so I think we've got enough rooted dirt to be getting on with for now. What block, stair or not, do you think would be good roof for a stripped spruce log cabin? Honestly, I'd go with something like deep slate tile, maybe? I don't know. I mean, it's difficult not to just make log cabins everything out of wood at that stage, but like deep slate is a nice dark block, especially when spruce logs are a little more lighter than the spruce. Like the stripped spruce is much lighter than the spruce log texture. Is Lloyd tied to Kamikaze the first dungeon? Basically, yes. He also ran out of the Agiel Lake crystal tunnel, the one where you get all of the smithing stones to upgrade your equipment. He ran straight out of that and straight into the area where the dragon swoops down. And, like, if you come at that from the south, then you go through, like, an area where an NPC warns you that a dragon lives in the lake. And then you go through some ruins where they're muttering about the dragon coming and burning everything. And then you encounter the dragon, so you've kind of been prepared for it. Whereas what Zloy did was decide to investigate the cave at the far end of the lake first, and we approached it from the north, and he had no idea the dragon was coming. So there's a fantastic clip, if you go look at the clips on my channel now, of that happening. It's very good. So I think I have some packed mud in one of these. I forget which. Is it this one? I've got some terracotta in there, because I thought at some point we might end up using terracotta, but we didn't in the end. The dragon bit was very funny. it was very good. I'm glad people enjoyed it. Yeah. I know what's in that game. I've been basically everywhere except a couple of locations. Like, I didn't fight Moog in my original playthrough, so I'm slowly getting back to that point. It's going to be a very long time before Zloy and I ever reach any of that area. But, you know, as far as I know, Zloy could want to go there, like, tomorrow. Yeah, the stuff in the early stages of that game especially, I'm fairly familiar with. So I'm now... like, I'm biting my tongue every time we go to certain areas because I know what's up, and he's gonna run into something incredible. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying that aspect of it. This is the gradient we're working with, by the way. We're going from andesite through tough and mossy cobblestone into moss, and then grass, and then coarse and rooted dirt, and then packed mud. And then kind of back out of that again, but then we get into more rocks and stuff. What advice would you give a preparing player starting a new world in the newest snapshots? I mean, honestly, if you're starting in the new snapshots, then, like, don't expect to keep your world for too long, because there are some things in newer snapshots where you can't move your world forward into new versions, right? So prepare for... for ultimately leaving that world behind at the end of it. But in the meantime, just have fun. Just, like, figure out what it is about the snapshot you want to explore, go looking for that, and spend some time there. I'll need to go and get some more packed mud in a second, but we have plenty, I think, so it should be fine. We'll mix a bit more rooted dirt into this. Packed Mud ASMR. I didn't like the Packed Mud sounds at first, but I think I'm kind of getting used to them now. I will need to keep my shovel around occasionally. Let's see, get a bit of that in there. And so I'm going by a couple of rules that I break occasionally just because it's kind of better that way for the randomized nature of texturing this kind of stuff. But like typically, if there's a mossy cobblestone block, it's got to have a moss block next to it. And you don't want to transition straight from moss to dirt all the time, so you want to put a grass block in there to lighten the color a little bit and like desaturate it slightly and mix in some of that savanna yellow color, and so that feels like it's drying out, and that's when it gets to like the dirt and stuff like that. We're going to go through and probably add some natural grass to everything, but we're going to do that sparingly because it's going to conflict with the moss color, and I might end up actually shearing a bunch of this and just adding it in manually so we can put it on the coarse dirt and stuff as well. I think it would be nice to have a bit of grass on the dirt sections, as though like weeds and stuff are growing up, but it's less so on the grass. That's what I think. Am I going to path any of the grass? No, I think at that point you're adding in a little bit of elevation change, like a tiny amount, but I feel like if you have grass path in here, adding in that texture doesn't feel too far off, but like the shadows around the edges of the blocks, I don't know, it just feels like too much small detail as opposed to the larger detail that I want here, and it just adds another pass of stuff to do, which I'm trying to avoid doing too much of right now. Let's see. We'll actually have this be the edge of this little outcropping. Dead bushes also, maybe. Maybe. I do have a good handful of those. Yeah, let's go sleep. And let's grab some more packed mud as well. I haven't switched off the alarm at the museum yet. Right, packed mud will be downstairs. Take a left and then a right. Too much visual noise is a really big thing to keep track of. Yeah, it's the problem with over-texturing stuff. Especially on a larger scale like this, where it's all meant to be background detail. I'm finding that I have more of a taste for things which feel either texturally varied or varied in terms of shape, but not both all at once, because that's when you tend to get kind of information overload. Like, I'm fine with this being a heavily textured area, but the landscape moves up in full blocks and doesn't have too much, like, sub-block detail in it. We've got a few, like, stone blocks and stuff like that being used to shape this boulder, but only because otherwise the boulder tended to look a little flat. And even then it wasn't that bad. I just like having extra detail in it. Can I give a tour of my base? I mean, my base is not really much to tour, to be quite honest, because my storage system is there underneath the angel statue. I started off in like a little hole in the wall that's down there. This is the museum where I keep a bunch of important artifacts from the series. I have a mud farm there. This is a kind of ruined house that I built in the early days just to outline what my build style was going to be. There's a tower over there that leads to the nether if you go through the bottom portal, and the nether roof if you go through the top portal. Over there is a bridge gatehouse leading to the Great Bridge, which goes off towards spawn. I have a froglight orchard over there and a road that kind of curves around from the main gate over there. That's basically it. Like, I don't have, like, Minecraft base stuff, in a sense. This is much more of, like, an area design project than it is, like, a Minecraft base. So I don't have, like, a house where I do my potion brewing and a house where I do my enchanting and that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't really work that way. A lot of my setup is just out in the open, because eventually I'm going to put it somewhere else. What am I building? This is going to be a naturally... Oh. a natural-looking cliffside that's going throughout this area, and there's going to be a castle built on top of it eventually. But for now, I'm just terraforming the landscape. Any updates on Season 2 of Survival Guide that you missed? Nope. It is still going to be going on at some stage. I'm putting a lot of effort into Empires right now because I have a lot of building and stuff that I want to do. And an Empires episode will probably be next because it's the more popular of the two series on my channel right now, and I haven't made a video for a while because I'm just getting back into a rhythm after I went away for 2.5 weeks, and then I had my dental issues, and then my keyboard stopped working. By the way, this stream brought to you by the brand new Extrafy keyboards that Corrales sent me. Big shout out to Corrales for hooking me up with a new keyboard. The man's an absolute legend and a gentleman, and also kindly provided me with a mouse pad and a mouse. So I'm like a full-on Extrafy fanboy at this point. And yeah, that's improved my life immensely. It'd be cool to have an alchemist sort of building in the capital just to put all the enchanting stuff inside. Yeah, I mean, that could be part of it eventually, but right now I'm really just focusing on what the castle is going to do. I think I'm probably going to take this tree away. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of acacia trees in general, I'm always kind of hesitant to take this stuff down, partly because it provides a nice platform to stand on when we're up and about doing this stuff, but also because like trees provide so much nice naturalization to an area that removing them, it feels kind of sterile as a result, right? Everything feels flatter, and honestly this landscape without trees would look much less interesting, and that's just its natural state right now. Acacia wood is not my favorite at all, but the tree structure is nice. Yeah, I mean the design of the trees feels much more unique than the oak trees typically do. Obviously you have some variation in oak trees, but still. Honestly, we'll go around like this. We might actually blend the tuff straight into coarse dirt here. I think we could manage some of that. Put the roots around there. Savannah is my least favorite biome. The grass color, the tree color, and structure, none of it attracts me. Yeah, I never really used to like building in savannas a whole lot before, and it just felt right for this project because of the Elden Ring influence and the fact that the starting area in Elden Ring has this very kind of golden yellow kind of grass color and tree color, so it kind of fit for what I had in mind. TS Fatal, thanks so much for the 3 months of Prime. Welcome back. Appreciate that very much. The fact that most people don't like acacia wood or savanna is 70% of the reason why I love both. Yeah, cool. It's always nice to find the stuff that people aren't going to touch on a Minecraft server and make that your thing, because that also means that your builds are going to have a more unique identity, and who knows, you might be getting somebody else into the idea of building with acacia wood in the future, if they see what you can do with it. That's one of the reasons I think there are no bad blocks in Minecraft. There are just blocks you don't know how to use until you find the right build style, or the right person comes along to use them, you know? Do I have a video on finding diamonds? Yeah, there's a couple of videos on that in the survival guide, especially after the terrain changes in 1.18. Made it easier to find diamonds at lower levels, but there's a variety of different approaches you can take now. But I'm pretty sure everybody who's ever made survival Minecraft videos has some sort of video about how to find diamonds. Regular savannah never my thing, but the structure of shattered savannah before the terrain changes was so good. You end up finding biomes that look like that now, but have different, like, biome skins over the top of them, I guess. And, yeah, it's always kind of interesting to see shattered basically everything else now. Go to big caves, aquifers. Aquifers are treasure houses of all ores. Yeah, if you can learn a couple of techniques for diving with, like, either water-breathing potions or doors or whatever. Once you've got aqua affinity, respiration, or just the right kind of... setup for going dive mining, you can find so much stuff. Really like the packed mud block. I think it's great. It's just like halfway between dirt and terracotta or stone or something in terms of its texture. Like, the texture seems so light when you get further away from it. You just really don't notice the texture of packed mud at all compared to the coarse dirt and stuff around it that's got, like, much higher contrast texture. So you can do a whole lot with it. When are we getting tutorials on builds? I mean, when people like watching those, which is kind of rare for me because people tend to like watching build tutorials in creative. If you build stuff in survival, then they're like, wow, why does he talk so much or something? And frankly, building is one of those things I find it harder to make a tutorial about that's compelling and interesting because I do so much of what I do based on feel. I feel like I can justify some of the decisions I make after the fact, but a lot of what I do tends to be based on kind of, not like instinct, because it's not an instinct as such, but it tends to be a lot more improvised and ideas that occur to me as I go rather than having any kind of structured plan for it. But that's really what comes of spending most of my Minecraft's career building stuff in survival rather than drafting it in creative first. So maybe I'll end up doing a bit more creative build drafting. The most recent episode of Survival Guide I uploaded was how to build stuff in a sense, but it was designing a build just using one block and focusing primarily on shape and then adding texture after the fact, which was effectively what I did to design the museum here in Empires, and we kind of reskinned it for a separate but identical shaped build in the Survival Guide world, which honestly I liked less than the copper roof and stone wall kind of vibe that I had going at the museum, but I wanted to show that it was possible to do stuff differently in both locations, you know? Cherry blossom biomes, grass and moss are going to be a neat gradient together? Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to cherry groves a lot. Everyone's going to want to build in one. They're going to be a hot commodity on multiplayer servers. I can imagine Ollie the Orion Sound is going to be making good use of that. I believe he's on his trip to Japan now. Have I finished the museum from Survival Guide 1? No, and I don't think I ever will. At this point, I just don't have the time. And it was not the smartest move for me to say, hey, I'm going to finish this off camera, because the reality of it was just that didn't appeal to me to do that off camera for so long after the season was done, because I just couldn't make videos out of it, so it felt like a waste of my time when I could be doing the stuff that actually like earns me a living. Is the grass actually different in cherry blossom biomes? I mean, it's a slightly different color than some other biomes. Yeah, there's gonna be a different... I don't know if it's like a unique color. I think it might be similar to the kind of biome color that you get in meadows and stuff, but I'm not certain. I haven't looked at it too closely. Oh yeah, he's streaming Mario Kart today, that's right. So he's probably going like tomorrow or something. Unless he's streaming Mario Kart from like the airport lounge, which, you know, he could be. Pink grass would have been fun. I think pink grass would have just made the biome feel too, like one note. And it feels less, realistic, I guess. I mean, I know Minecraft doesn't have to be realistic, let's be real, but let's be real, it doesn't have to be realistic. Solid combination of words there. Off-camera work is unpaid work. That's an interesting way of thinking about it, yeah. Let's do that. Hey, Vinka. Taking this texturing to my world because I'm so bad at it? Sure, yeah. I mean, feel free to grab a bunch of ideas like this if you see anything that you like. It's one of the great things about sharing stuff on YouTube is that you can expect people to grab a few bits and pieces from it if they like the look of things. The thing I like about this area the most is that section of moss that makes its way down into the cliffside. I might try and find more places I can do that. Like here, maybe. Because this all just looks very flat on the edges. It's kind of designed that way. But like if we can do a sort of vein of mossy cobblestone with the stuff that I've got in those boxes over there. Put some of this stuff away so we can grab that. Actually, no, I'll need the moss. What am I talking about? We'll grab the tuff. We've got enough mossy and the moss blocks. Pile of stones just makes the world more lively. I wish it was a vanilla thing, but it's fun to do ourselves. Yeah, I mean, boulders like that, you get the vague idea of them from stuff like old growth pine taiga is what it's called now. Mega taiga as we used to think of it. But you don't tend to see as many of those taken to more natural looking shapes, right? Like you often find that those feel too obvious and artificial. They're geometric shapes. Yeah, let's kind of run it down here. Stuff like that is just... yeah, that's all it needs. Just a couple of extra bits of detail. Did we get the floating block? We did. Good. Just something to throw a bit more character in there, and we'll start to add a bit more detail around the base of the cliff as well. I've been doing bits and pieces of that here and there, but we've got a bit of moss there and a bit of mud here, which is where I did end up using the terracotta. Mixing in the rooted dirt and packed mud again, just kind of throw a little bit of colour at the base of the cliff, but not all the way around, because then it just looks too repetitive feeling. But we just have the occasional spot of detail there and around here, and then the rest of the grey area just lets the eye breathe a little bit, lets your eyes rest. I want to thank Joel Duggan for the suggestion of throwing a layer of andesite around the top of the cliff as well, just to make the rock feel like it's a little more worn. Areas where the rocks would have maybe like either been shaped by the wind or the elements over time, or perhaps that there were kind of boulders around here that would have fallen off, and the kind of motion of that would have smoothed out the rock. I'd love to let my eyes breathe, I know, right? That's how I feel getting off a plane. It's like, oh, finally, the air isn't so dry and my eyes can breathe. Me when I take off my contact lenses? Gosh, yeah. I can't imagine. I'm fortunate enough to not have to wear any kind of, like, corrective lenses. And, I imagine wearing contacts and, like, how dry your eyes get and everything, like, must be painful. Using acacia logs as a texture on stone building can be great. Yeah. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff with that. We have a lot of different grey textures now. BOO's Cliff on Hermitcraft Season 7, I want to say, used a lot of acacia in there. How do I decide where to put the blocks? It kind of comes to me naturally, which is why I don't do much in the way of building tutorials, but like if you look at what I'm trying to do here, it's a gradient from grey through green into brown, and so I'm sort of loosely adding them in this order. As far as like the elevation goes, I want this to feel like a natural kind of staircase of sorts, so that it feels like the slope is more gradual than that. But obviously, like, you've got the entire shape of this, which is just a cliff that I doodled on a stream a week or two ago. But if you look at the top of this now, it has that gradient that you'd find in like a pixel art image, where everything kind of goes from one color over to the next color. And it doesn't quite checkerboard. Like, the best way I can describe the process of texturing these kind of things, aside from like a bit of trial and error getting involved with it, is you think about the way a knight moves in chess. It moves from its first position one block forward and then one block diagonally. And if you adopt that pattern when you're texturing, as long as you don't use it everywhere, like, you can play around with it a little bit, but if you mix that pattern in, things can look a lot less checkerboardy. Like, for example, right here, you can see I've done it there with the rooted dirt. I've got 1, 2, and then 3 is over there at a diagonal. I do that quite a lot. There's one here, like that, and there's one here, like that. The grass kind of does it there, and then it's got another one kind of facing in the opposite direction, but then, like, little odds and ends, single blocks here and there, a little bit of checkerboarding like that, but as long as there's enough other textures around it, it doesn't make as much of a difference. Like, there's 2 mossy cobblestone there and one at a diagonal, 2 tough here and one at a diagonal. You add a bit of tough next to that and it changes the shape again, and like, you start to figure out these neat little texturing tricks almost that can stop it feeling like you've just made a chessboard out of 2 different blocks. In terms of, yeah, the elevation change here is really just like... This looks too flat here for now, based on the shape that I've already created for the cliff wall. I feel like this next layer has to come up one. The slabs are a good touch as well. Yeah, I had a stonecutter on me. I've always got them in the bundle that we have on the server. And I decided to just carve a couple of andesite blocks when I was making these. And I thought, yeah, we'll have a couple of these here and there. I don't want to go too overboard with them, because this area feels very flat, and even having like a couple of those slabs just feels suddenly like they've been placed there really intentionally instead of it looking natural. So it's a difficult balance to strike, but just one or two here and there, especially if you can surround them with grass and other things that will give them a bit more context, I think that's good. If you look at like environment design for video games in particular does this, but it's obviously based in some sense of reality. Weeds grow up from the underside of rocks. So like you'll have a slab. Let's get a bit of... Let's say natural stone here. And then we'll have some grass from around here, because I've still got my shears on me. I tried, I wasn't sure, occasionally recipes like this escape me. I wasn't sure whether you could craft rooted dirt or not, if you could like farm hanging roots and craft them together with dirt. Turns out you can't. But, yeah, that's why I have the shears on me in the first place. But then if you put a boulder, let's say here, right? I mean, I say a boulder, it's just like a rock, really. But if you put grass like around the outside of it like that, that can kind of give the impression, especially if the grass is like placed slightly over to one side, like it hangs over the edge of the block, like this is doing on this side and on that side. It can really help the boulder feel like it's a bit more intentional and kind of grown around, you know? I can't do that as much here, unfortunately, because there isn't dirt next to each of these. But if I wanted to mix in a bit more moss here, then I could do that fairly easily. Alternatively, we put them like here, for example, and even though this isn't the most grassy area, it can feel like there is a bit of grass growing up around these. If I want to put one there, then we get a bit of grass behind that. And that starts to look a lot more natural, and it gives some texture to this top area. Like, it feels way more natural doing stuff like that. It's actually an amazing tip. Yeah, I mean, again, this is stuff that I picked up from, weirdly, looking at Elden Ring. Or if you look at, I don't know, Ark Survival Evolved, or anything else that's got like a more detailed model for a 3D environment. We just pick a block here that we don't really like all that much. Let's say, you know, here, for example. I can throw a bunch of grass around that. Maybe not on all four sides, even. You can omit one side if you prefer. But I kind of like having grass there, because, again, it's onto the rooted dirt there. Yeah, just having a few of those around really feels like it's adding to that. And God, that feels so much more natural now, with a bit of extra grass on it, but not too much, not like spamming it like you naturally get in terrain generation. I'm a lot happier with that already. Feels so weird to see the grass just change colors as it enters your inventory. Yes, yes. So like the grass, as you pick it up like this, is more neutral, but it also kind of looks a bit more like mountain grass, which is kind of odd, you know? Like, this is that slightly minty green color you get in colder biomes. Like, it might feel a bit more at home up here in this mountain area, or like in the forest next door. It's like this color, but not quite. See, it's like slightly bluer. I'm not sure if this... Yeah, like it's weird. Like, the sprite looks different if you throw it here. It kind of blends in. If you put it here, less so. And then obviously in the savannah, it's like a really different color to the grass that grows here, you know? Can we farm roots for rooted dirt? No. No, you can't, unfortunately. But the best place to find a large quantity of rooted dirt is really just to find a naturally generated azalea tree and dig down underneath it, because there's like 7 or 8 stacks of rooted dirt just sat there in the ground for you. I think naturally generated coarse dirt patches would improve or detract from biomes. You get them in old growth pine taiga, in mega taiga biomes, and it's fine there. Like, along with the podzol and stuff, I think it works. But I think in terms of these biomes, I don't know, not really. If you think about it right, grass only tends to wear down to the point where you'd have coarse dirt in places where people move regularly. Like, the grass kind of gets... Like, a path is naturally worn in a forest, let's say, because people travel along that path all the time, right? I also just realized I haven't put out a thing on YouTube to say that we're live, so I should probably do that real quick. I'll take a picture of this, and that'll hopefully give some context to what we're doing. Let's fly up with the free cam and probably zoom in just a touch. That'll do. Yeah, like if you go to a forest trail, that trail has been worn by traffic, basically, by foot traffic. And so coarse dirt like that makes sense in areas like that. But in these biomes, it would only really make sense if something was eroding the soil on a regular basis. And so is that, you know, animals? Is that, like, trees sheltering the grass so it can't grow properly, that kind of thing. But otherwise, grass seed is just going to naturally spread. What's the end goal of this build? The plateau is going to have a castle on top of it. Let's quickly make that community post. And scroll down to that screenshot. There we go. Oh, it's too big. Just got to resize that, I guess. The problem with having my monitor being the size that it is. Okay, save over that. And let's try again. There we go. Perfect. Alright, as we were. Is my monitor 2K? It's a 4K monitor. But, yeah, my field of view just feels better at 80, I've found. Let's do a couple more of those boulders. We'll do some andesite ones, though. Boulders, rocks, whatever we want to call them at this point. Grassy biomes need something to break up the green. I think a lot of the terrain does that now, especially in areas where there's natural sort of walls like that. But, yes, often so many of them are hillsides like this. And that's one of the things that I like changing about Minecraft's terrain. I think if I have time, I want to do a bit more of this cliff building around some of these hillsides and areas in the terrain, because none of it really feels like something that anybody would avoid building on unless it was more difficult to access, you know? Let's just grab a ton of the grass under here because we aren't going to see this later anyway. My torch placing is wildly inefficient, but doesn't matter. Ever thought about joining SMPs with an insane amount of mods, witchcraft, afterlife, etc.? I don't tend to like modded Minecraft all that much. Alright. Because it's difficult to know what to do in modded Minecraft that isn't just play vanilla Minecraft, you know what I mean? Like, I'm so used to all of the stuff that's in vanilla from doing survival guide and whatever else for so long that I tend to just play the vanilla game and barely get involved with the mods sometimes. Doesn't always work out that way, but sometimes it does. But, you know, I'd consider it, yeah. I think it's fun to experiment with new stuff occasionally. You could kind of do it there as well with the moss there. Kind of makes me think I should have an auto bell somewhere in my base. Yeah, it's surprisingly effective having the bell just constantly ringing in the museum, but I don't really want to be seeing these guys. I'm happier ignoring them. There's mods that enhance the experience, and there's mods that completely change the game so you're playing something new. Yeah. And a lot of the time, if I want to be playing something different to vanilla Minecraft, I just play a totally different game in general. Hey, what's up, Risco? We need to get some regular grass blocks back in here, don't we? That's what's missing from what I've got in my inventory right now. It's like the captain's despawned or dropped off at least, so can get rid of this guy. And not be bothered by them for a little while. Sooner or later, we'll stop the gradient work and we'll just end up using one block for the rest of this, because that's the area that's largely going to be covered by the castle. But I think in the meantime, it's nice to get this stuff around here for the minute. And yeah, definitely in areas like this, we want to make sure there's grass blocks around. He was just standing there. I mean, he was just standing there waiting to shoot me. So, you know, if that makes you feel any better about it. How big do I plan on the castle being? You see how large this area is? Gonna try and fill as much of that as possible. Again, Stormveil from Elden Ring is kind of my inspiration for this. I want it to be big. But obviously, this is still an area that's ruined, so if I start building bits of it and it turns out I don't have enough time to complete it in terms of the lifespan of this series, then I can just put together what seems like more of a ruined castle now and hope that that feels like it gets, you know, like it comes across as a castle that hasn't stood up well to the ravages of time or whatever. The ravagers of time, specifically, from the raids that happened on the castle. Not a small project. No, absolutely not. Which is one of the reasons I'm taking so much time on stuff like this. Ruined Castle also sounds neat. Yeah, but the way I think of Stormveil is that it is ruined. It's still populated in some sense by all of the guards and stuff that exist there, but so much of it is just, like, torn down bits and stuff that's been bombarded by dragon fire and all that kind of stuff, right? They ever had the ability to stack moss carpets like snow layers? No. No, snow layers are still the only thing that you can have, like, between 2 and 7 layers of. And I would love to have that for sand or moss or something like that, right? But we do what we can with everything else. Definitely seen some very effective builds that just retexture snow layers in the desert for sand layers to make sand dunes. But I think if they did that for everything in the game, you're introducing a lot of block faces for the game to render, which is potentially an issue for performance. As far as I know, but then I don't know that much about the technical side of all of that. Want to build a castle at some point too. It seems pretty daunting. They're big projects, but they're always really fun. Keeleon, oh my goodness. Thank you so much for the $50. Thank you also to Muggins for the 5 months and the nice message earlier. But thank you so much, Keeleon. Wow, that's wild. What is the dancing sheep? You talking about these? Or is there a sheep somewhere I can't see? There's a few of them around. To replicate the Elden Ring experience, have a sign that says secrets ahead and then not be a secrets ahead, yeah. Zloy was apparently playing through a bit off camera after our stream yesterday in single player, just to kind of see how he matched up against some of the bosses and stuff that we fought, and basically like play through the same thing in single player. And so he's running into player messages, which don't show up if you're using the co-op mod that we're using, because it basically removes you from the standard like offline play experience. And so yeah, he's found a bunch of the like the signs that say "Behold, bird," where there's like a bird there, and I love that stuff. That's some of the stuff that in player messages still makes me laugh the most. Is people like leaving signs around a turtle being like, could this be a dog? You know, that's, for some reason that always gets me. And then the next one over is likely dog. Stop running away from me. What are you doing? Ooh, Deep Slate Coal Ore. Ah. Oh, Deep Slate Emerald is in here as well. Maybe you're the one who's stolen it. Breaking it down into micro blocks. Is there an aesthetic tweak I'd like to see integrated into vanilla, like the fluffy leaves on Empires or greening the exposed sides of grass blocks? Probably just connected glass more than anything. Like the ability to have connected glass be part of default resource packs instead of needing something like Optifine or a mod. I think we use continuity on this one, on Empires. Connected glass is probably a big one. But that's the only visual tweak I really roll with on a regular basis. Like when it comes to Optifine and stuff, I don't put grass around the outside of blocks, like the kind of green hillside, because we have moss to do that with now, you know? Like it's not the same green as everywhere else, but I think if you want to build a landscape where the grass is just like rolling down a hillside, you can use moss to do that. Yes, Evanitter, I did get my new keyboard. I'm back to sprinting using control. The first time I logged into Minecraft today, playing with the new keyboard for the first time, because it arrived yesterday, but I was playing Elden Ring for yesterday's stream. I didn't get too much Minecraft time in. It arrived yesterday. Elden Ring was on a gamepad, so that was fine. Logged into Minecraft today, immediately tried to sprint using backslash. I had conditioned myself to use the wrong key, and so like it genuinely took me a couple of hours worth of play while I was working on this and going out and getting more rooted dirt and stuff to actually reacclimatize myself to sprinting with the correct key. So that was pretty funny. I laughed at myself for a good while about that, but it's not the wrong key if it works. True, and I mean I still had it rebound like in the controls. So like I tried sprinting using control like more deliberately, and then I realized, oh yeah, I need to rebind it back to control. But after that, I found my pinky finger slipping over towards the backslash key, and I was like, you can't do that. You can't become one of those people who sprints using a custom key forever. It's very funny. Right, let's get a little further in at the top part here. But this is really where this cliff wall is going to start merging with the landscape, and a path is going to come up through these trees that you can find your way up to the plateau. Because in Elden Ring, like, again, I feel like a broken record talking about Elden Ring this much, but to be honest, it is so important to the way I'm thinking about designing this area. Obviously, the path here is going to be obscured by all of these trees, right? And I might add a few more in there, and like bushes and stuff, and maybe a few more overgrown sections once we've got the path sort of figured out. And there's this structure here as well, and you're like, would there be a way of getting over any of that? And so you have to explore like at ground level. You can't see it from an overview of the area. You really have to go looking for it in order to find the reward of, oh hey, there's actually a path that leads you up here. The alternative being maybe there's like a tricky series of jumps somewhere else that allows you to get up the face of the cliff. Or maybe there's like a really obvious path somewhere else, but that's where all of the enemies are, right? So like the game provides a couple of different ways of you getting up there, but you either have to go the long way around and like search through the forest for the right path to take you on that allows you to discover it, or you risk going in the main gate and then you have all of the guys like shooting at you or whatever. So maybe like if I wanted to trap some pillagers like the ones that were around here before, we could potentially even do that. We could like have crossbowmen on the path leading up to the castle or something. I don't know if I will do that, but it would be a fun way of recreating the experience of going in the main gate of Stormvale. Let's have this moss wrap around a little bit here. Feels like we might transition into the grass a little too quickly otherwise. And we can have... Oh, hello. Can have a mossy cobblestone slab like there to hide that other grass block. Bit more of that around. I plan to integrate that aqueduct into the castle. Yes, so the idea is that there's a water source up here that's actually going to be flowing over part of this cliffside in a river, which is why I haven't decorated over here yet, because it's going to be coming from somewhere central in here. There's going to be like a waterfall maybe there between those two trees, and then a river is going to flow down through the town. It might even be the reason that little lake is down there, but it's going to come down through here and head out that way. And the idea is that there's a fresh spring here, and water from that is going to be controlled by the castle and is going to be fed out this way to irrigate the orchard, which is going to be this area's like main export, I suppose. It's the thing I've traded with people the most, for sure. Like, I've traded a lot of people froglights now, and yeah, I like the idea of them having done a whole bunch with water in this area, because Savannah's a dry biome and the lake out that way is probably fresh water, but this is a tall area of terrain, the bridge is giant, and getting water from there might be a more difficult task for people. So like a mountain spring here is going to be really important, and you can imagine the town having been built around that. Uartic, thanks so much for the raid. Welcome in. Do I have any intention to do any lore bits for other players anytime soon? I'm working on a couple of things, but I mean, I haven't had the time to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do. And yeah, they may still pop up where I can, but I'm also trying to focus on the stuff that I can make videos for right away. And with any of the lore builds, I have to effectively wait until somebody discovers it before I can make a video about it. I've not been able to do as much of that as I hoped I would, but like, turns out there's not so many hours in the day. I would love there to be more. Looks like so much digging. Yeah, but digging can be done fairly quickly. How's that looking now? Yeah, it's pretty solid. I like what we got going on here. So I think the thing we're going to do now, we'll probably, yeah, we'll gradiate it back out from the mud into like a bit of coarse dirt, a bit of rooted dirt. Make sure that we don't have too much of that touching around here. Still hear that wandering trader. Bit too much rooted dirt all in one place. Just swap those blocks over and it'll be fine. Thoughts on incorporating the mini blocks for traders into vanilla? The mini block thing is difficult because they're all player heads right now, right? So that means codifying mini blocks as a thing beyond player heads anyway. And that aside, they don't quite fit with what you would hope them to be capable of in Minecraft, which is being able to have them as part of a block on any given area, you know? Like being able to put something in the back right corner of this block here and only have it occupy that space. So it becomes like a kind of quarter slab, if you like. And I feel like that's not going to... like micro blocks like that aren't really part of Minecraft's design philosophy right now, it seems like. So I don't see stuff like that happening unless it manifests as something like, you know, candles, the way candles work now, and sea pickles, and the new cherry petals, the pink petals. At that point, it just becomes like, now we have chisels and bits in vanilla, right? Which I'm sure a lot of people would want, but personally I think it's a little bit too far for vanilla Minecraft. I know a lot of people really like mods like that. It never rains, but it pours. And I have a lot of grass. So we can start to apply this liberally, and it's not going to look nearly as good as the rest of this texturing does, right? Because it's just going to blend in with the hillside at this point. But once again, we're going to be building more stuff like this on it, and then we're going to be starting to figure out where the castle goes. So we can start to weave the grass blocks in a little here and there. But really the point is just to apply a fill to all of the area that is not currently connected to the local hillside. Hey, Kelbuddy, welcome in. Yeah, see? And people were trying to shame me for killing that pillager earlier. Look at what they did to that innocent wandering trader. Not the kind of thing a player would do. What kind of player would ever kill a wandering trader? Am I right? Guys. Anyone? Are we the baddies? The Tumbletown bandits have arrived. Being weirdly passive today, and I'm fine with that. Alright, now they're just infighting, I guess. I do kind of wish pillagers, when they started shooting each other, would keep shooting each other the way skeletons do. But I can imagine that being a problem around pillager outposts pretty quickly. Yeah, this is good enough for now. More concerned for those trees getting buried? Eh. The thing about trees in Minecraft that you can't really create like a one-to-one analog with the real world is that trees in Minecraft can be grown instantly. And don't require things like sunlight and nutrition and a sort of life and decay cycle of leaves in order to sustain their own survival. And yes, if you chop down the base of a tree, it doesn't all fall over. If you can build a forest in a cave, you can. One of the first things I tried out in the new terrain when 1.18 was in snapshots and they'd given us a look at giant caves, whatever they were called, like the cheese caves, was, do I now take spruce saplings down here and try and grow trees and like farm trees at the bottom of the world, because going back up to the surface is going to be a pain and I'll need a regular supply of wood. You can build a forest in a cave. There's a lot of things you can do. Just like, I love how this changes so much of what I've been used to around here in terms of like looking at the landscape. Like suddenly there's this cliff over here. I do want there to be a bit more color to it, or a bit more texture in the front part here, but so much of the rest of it I feel like we can just leave alone. See you later, Raymond. Have a good one. Best of luck on your assignment. I'm gonna lurk in as I'm still working. Okay. Do some lurking, Jones. It's all good. Mama Builder, hey, welcome in. Just dropped by while prepping dinner. What you having? I still gotta work out what's for our dinner today. Although I'm thinking about ordering Chinese food. Seems like it'd be a good plan for today. Our Chinese place on the corner is like open on most days of the week, but it's always closed on Tuesdays, and Tuesday is always the day I feel like ordering takeaway food, so... Occasionally I have to wait until Thursday. Butter, fried chicken, veggies, and potato wedges. Very nice. Very nice. The veggies are very important. Yeah, now we're making everyone hungry. We're going with some kind of takeout tonight. Chronic illness doing its thing, so cooking is kind of out of the question. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Thursday's a good day for it, I think. You're not quite at Friday there, but Friday you feel like, oh, the weekend's coming up. If you've got a traditional weekend, you have like a little bit more energy for doing stuff yourself, you know? Because you're like, oh, I can relax tomorrow. Yeah, let's get rid of this one as well. Probably going to leave a lot of dark space down here if we don't do something about it, but of course there's going to be mobs down here anyway if there are caves, so I'm not as worried about that. Free leads. Just prefer not to break into this for whatever reason and find myself surrounded by creepers who are all immediately going to blow up my cliff. Tomorrow's grocery delivery day, so I eat what's left in the fridge. It's a good move. What's in the mug? Tea. English breakfast. Another gunpowder farm for the server. I mean, it's a creeper generator rather than a gunpowder farm. To be a farm, there'd have to be some kind of mechanism in there. Dogman Jack, thank you for the 21 months. Welcome in. Kind of keep the shape of that a bit more consistent. We do something like this. Yeah. Just did some grocery shopping. Friday's probably going to be that day for me unless we end up going out and doing anything fun. It's also looking like the weather's going to be shocking for a few days, so I'll find a gap in the rain and I'll go out and get some groceries. Yeah, it snowed a little bit the night before last, and we woke up to a dusting of snow, but then it disappeared throughout the day because it warmed up enough to just be rain, and the rain got rid of the rest of it. There was some in our back garden for the majority of the day, but it was all basically gone by the time the sun went down. I think it's only going to get below freezing here one more day of the week, and then I'm thinking this will be the last really cold weather we have for this end of the year. I'm hopeful, though, because it's March now, so I'm like, spring is on the way. But yeah, I did used to live up in Leeds after I was done with university, and there was one year there it snowed in April, so can't always guarantee that stuff. Johnny Uchiha, welcome in. I've had a good day, yeah, thank you. I've spent most of today working on Minecraft stuff whilst watching ZloyXP's perspective on our Elden Ring stream from yesterday, and that's been tremendously entertaining. I also thought of several jokes that I should have made at the time, but I was too busy trying not to die. I said to him on Discord, there was one point where he pointed out my character looks like Aragorn, and I should have made the joke that I was putting points into Vigo. That's a joke for anybody who knows how you level up in Elden Ring, which might be some of you, I don't know. Seen it snow in the panhandle of Florida in March once? Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just get wacky weather. I was too busy dying, to be honest. Hey, I didn't die that much. I mean, it's his fault for taking us through Fringe Folk Hero Grave when we're both only, like, level 15 or whatever, so... Snowing here right now, no big deal, yeah. Yeah, some countries will be used to it. Some, climates will be more used to it. I feel like it's weird in the UK, especially in the south, because it's always so hit or miss whether we get snow or not. Like, some years we just won't get it. Like, it's not a reliable thing at all. Whereas I talked to Joel in Canada, and he's like, I'm surprised we haven't had any snow yet before he gets his first flurries. Gotta do something with the back of this, so once again, I don't have to worry too much about the texture when we're just gonna be papering over it with papier-mâché rocks. Promise to take my little boy to the park on Sunday, but living in Scotland without crazy weather doesn't sound like a good idea. Time to break out the old raincoat. Very wet snow in the Netherlands, yeah. Yeah, we get, like, sleet and stuff here quite a bit. There's no bad weather, there's only bad clothing, and that's a good way of thinking about it. I like that philosophy. Not one I'm going to adopt myself, because I only have bad clothing. Snowed here in the Arizona desert last month. Yeah, I mean, my in-laws in California got a ton of snow there. I mean, not like a ton, not like, you know, 2 foot or anything, but for California, it was a ton of snow. And they've had one of the rainiest winters that they've had for a really long time. About to make them honorary Brits with how much they talk about the weather every time we call them. It does not go for hot weather. I've not yet learned to take off my skin. Gosh. Well, if you're interested in learning, check out me and Zloy XP streaming Elden Ring. Alright, I need to go and get more grass. Ding! Got a couple of extra bones that I don't really need to keep, but I might as well. So the thing about the Wither Skeleton farm is that I've not needed to worry about bone meal since. And I probably will put some glow lichen and stuff up here eventually, just for a little bit of soft lighting. Maybe a skosh or two of mob spawn proof area. Amount of snow we've had here in Minnesota actually put a dent in the drought we've had for a couple of years now. Yeah, when I was watching the Hot Dish in Minnesota, Toz, hence the name, live in Minnesota, and Toz put up a webcam basically looking out of their apartment at the snow that was building up outside of there. It was like Minnesota snow cam. Internal, thanks so much for the 37 months. 3 years old today. Well, 3 years and 1 month. I do find it really funny and adorable when kids are at that age when they still have to tell you their age in months. Where, like, I'm 3 years and 5 months old. It's like, good for you. Good for you valuing the months. Zen Figment, thank you for the 12 months. Everyone spam the word nerd in the chat, please. Thank you so much for the full year supporting the channel. Enjoy your nerd sub badge and welcome to the Nerd Herd. But yeah, the kid in, I think it's A Knight's Tale, the kid who's like, he asks how old she is, and she's like 9 1/2. It's like, our kids have not changed in 1,000 or so years. I count my age in hours. It's the same group of people who count all temperatures in Kelvin. 1,000 1/2. California Moon, thank you for the 20 months. Gosh, the hype train is arriving late today. Normally done with that early, but this time around, people showing up to resub a little later than planned. Better use Kelvin than Fahrenheit, honestly. I always say that, like, it depends on what you're measuring more than anything else, because I find Fahrenheit seems like a much more sensible way to measure body temperature than Celsius does. Because if your temperature is over 100, that's when you start developing a fever. And so 100 is a nice easy number to remember in that sense. But when it comes to, like, water temperature, obviously you're using Celsius because it's 0 and 100 are freezing point and boiling point. Like, that part makes sense. Like, I think there are different scales, and it's okay for there to be different scales. You just have to agree on them and not be a pain in the neck about it if somebody's using the other one. Shags, thank you for the 29 months of tier 3. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Welcome back in. Keelion, thank you for gifting 10 subs on top of that. Really appreciate that. Some of those going out to some new subs as well as some old ones. So make sure you thank Keelion for that very generous gift. Dogman Jack gifting 5 subs as well. And Crag's in with the 100 bits. Thank you for the 100 bits sneaking in there. Celsius, water temperature, Fahrenheit, how it feels to humans. Yeah, totally. Flip is here. Trisha, thank you for the 5 gifted. And Jenny with the 100 bits. Thank you. I can't see Kelvin without thinking it's somebody's names. Oh my goodness. Gandarian, thank you for the 100. Teeny Bit gifting 5 subs. Archeo Place, thank you for the 18-month resub. And Leon Daisy with a brand new Prime sub to the channel. Enjoy your emotes and your sub badge. Welcome to the Pixels. Happy to have you.
Well, that's just Prime.
There he goes. Yeah, the alerts catch up a lot more quickly now that I've packaged together all the gifted subs into one notification. Which I think was a good move. I think we'll probably just bring this down to here for the moment. Then we at least have a bit of room to do something with the boulder. It's getting there. Definitely feels like the landscape makes a bit more sense, you know, instead of it just all being rolling hills. Little Red Demon with a brand new tier 1 sub as well. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Pixels. Enjoy those emotes. Mystifying Mage, thank you for the 6 months of Prime. Welcome back. Let's grab all of this from the trees. Pop over here and throw down a torch before more stuff like this starts happening. I'm not as worried about the mob spawning under here, really. I just want to make sure people don't hear groaning noises constantly when they're up here on the plateau. Ginger, thank you for gifting a sub. Every time I hear the word boulder, I think of Shrek. Oh dear. Good thing you don't work for, you know, the national parks or something. It's Avatar: The Last Airbender for me. The boulder takes issue with that comment. When can we expect an episode? When I have anything to show for it. Which, you know, giant cliff at my base might merit an episode, but I'm also in the process of collecting all of the bits of Rendog that he's left lying around, which is taking longer than I expected to because I didn't receive any, like, clues about where any of them were. So I have just had to fly around until I find them, which has taken longer than I expected it to. A couple of other people might have found 1 or 2 of them, though, so I might be able to, like, buy the information from some people. Yeah, I also want to see if I can get hold of Fwip after this to record a quick bit. Hart Sinclair, thank you for gifting 5 subs. Very generous of you. 30 seconds left on that hype train if you want to get it to level 4 and keep it going. Get some of those Twitch emotes. Fwip is selling one at his base. Exactly why I might need to get hold of him after this. Folks, thank you so much for the hype train. You're all very generous. And I appreciate you immensely. Alright, last stack of grass blocks. The vibes here today are immaculate, thank you. Yeah, the weather here is looking the same way the weather's looking outside right now, although we can finally sleep it away. Can you tell me the names of the glowing cubes behind you? Oh, those are Nanoleaf Canvas lights. Planning any redstone surprises in future castle? Let me build the castle first, and then we'll see what I have time for. It's a little bit difficult to plan all of that stuff when I don't even know what shape the thing is going to be yet, other than I want it to be large. But yeah, I'd love to make a more of a project of it, but I do need to make sure it's at least achievable before people decide it's time to move on. Or before I have to start getting back into Survival Guide for no other reason than 1.20 is out and the people demand videos. Large shaped, old shaped, yep. Basically all of the above. Survival Guide is the #1 leading cause of death for Empire's episodes. I mean, the same is true the other way around. Empire's Season 2 really brought me away from Survival Guide in a way I wasn't expecting, because people went wild for this series, so I'm doing what I can. But there's a funny thing that happens on YouTube when you are known for something in particular, that it becomes very difficult, I think, to reinvent yourself as a content creator in a way that you're ever going to be like considered as anything other than the person who did this big project once upon a time, right? Like, I don't know of many people who have had success moving on from big servers like Hermitcraft. Like, back in the day, back in Hermitcraft Season 3 or so, when, like, Slipgator and a few others were around, they were doing, like... Yeah, Slip basically reinvented himself as an Ark Survival Evolved guy. But then, in more recent days, I don't think he even creates videos anymore. Like, I think he's sailing around the world. Or something like that, right? So there's just really interesting, like, paths people can take through life that don't involve becoming a new kind of YouTuber or content creator or whatever, but then if I wanted to move on from doing Hermitcraft recap, I feel like so many people would still know me as the recap guy and think, like, is he ever going to come back and do more Hermitcraft recap again? If I moved on from doing survival guides, would I be able to do anything as successful after that? Like, we're still just chasing success in whatever form it takes, right? And yeah, like, people will either start trends if they're lucky, or jump on trends if they are more interested in following along with that kind of stuff, where hardcore will become popular. And you'd argue Filza is probably responsible for that, if you want to name one person. And then, like, 100 Days videos or whatever, like, there's a ton of stuff like that that can happen to you, but then it's about finding a way of making that sustainable. People that 100% move on from big thing they do online and moving offline, or they go smaller, yeah, and as long as they can afford to do that, then more power to them. If they feel less pressure, if they feel like it's better for their overall health or career or lifestyle or family or whatever, then great. If I've been invited to the live series, you see me playing in the live series? I have not, but I didn't really want to get involved with it anyway, so... Not the kind of thing that really appeals to me. Hey, Proceratops, welcome in. Would I want to, as it's PvP? Yeah, PvP is really not my thing. Like, I'm not very good at it to begin with, but I don't think you have to be good to make entertaining videos on the topic, but I don't know. I just find that anything that involves PvP and that kind of, like, physical competition tends to... I don't know, provoke argument. Maybe not necessarily between the people who are involved, if they're all, like, good friends and they're on the same page about stuff, but sometimes amongst the audience, and I don't know, it just always leaves me with, like, weird vibes. Sometimes interesting to think how we as audience members must affect the direction of content. There are plenty of creators I want to watch all their content to support them. There's only so much time, and I'm guilty of only watching a creator just for one series or even video. Yeah, I think on the flip side, there's also a lot of creators will just stick with what they want to do. Like, they will go where they feel most fulfilled on an artistic level, even if they don't necessarily think of it that way themselves. And Empires, for me, is a combination of the two. Like, it's clearly the more popular series between Empires and Survival Guide, or at least it was at the time when I decided to start making Empires videos almost exclusively and give Survival Guide a bit of a break. But also, I feel like this project felt more artistically fulfilling to me than the stuff I was doing on Survival Guide, because on Survival Guide I feel like I have to justify so much of what I do because it's a guide series, and so it has to feel like a tutorial of sorts, whereas here I could just start building whatever I wanted, and I had more of a fun idea in my head for how all of this was going to turn out. Inspired content is better content. I think so. I like to think so. And yeah, there's company. Like, there's people to, for better or for worse, measure yourself against. But there's also people you can collaborate with. And, like, I wouldn't have missed this season of Empires for anything. Like, I think it's been such a fun thing to be part of. Not least because of the Hermitcraft collab, but also just because everyone had such fun ideas, and everyone went into this season going... Last season we went a bit for the drama, and we kind of got into that realm of storytelling. We all want to have a bit more fun with this season, and it's not like last season wasn't fun, but now we know the directions we can take things. We have a much firmer idea of how much fun we can have with it, you know? I think Fwip said it pretty early, even like on camera in his series, if he was streaming or if he just mentioned it like in passing in a video, but he was like, basically in terms of lore this season, I just want to do whatever I find fun. Like, it's just going to be me having fun with it. Is there any consideration for a permanent merger with the Hermits? No. No, absolutely not. They're not looking for new people to join Hermitcraft. They're looking for ways to maybe find a new audience, boost viewership, collaborate with people that they enjoy collaborating with. Like, again, on an artistic and fulfilling level, we all just want to be making good videos together. But, like, there was never any talk about the entire cast of Empires joining Hermitcraft or vice versa, right? Because we all collaborate in different ways already, but Hermitcraft is such a big thing, and by that I mean it's got a lot of weight and inertia, and once they really get behind something, they have a ton of momentum and they can really push for that. Hermitopia is a great example, but it also takes them a little while to get going on anything because they have to have everybody's agreement on big projects like that, right? And so there's no way you could get everybody on Hermitcraft to agree to 13 extra people joining Hermitcraft all at once. You can only get them to agree to it in the context of it being a temporary thing, because there are always going to be some people who are like, I don't like change, I like to keep things the way they are right now, and I'm happy just going through my thing. And like, if we add 1 or 2 extra people, then that feels a lot more comfortable and a lot more like something I can adapt to than adding 15 people all at once. But I don't think half the people on Empires were really that interested in doing so either. If you look at like Gem and False, for example, they have nothing to gain from that because they're on both servers, but like merging all of that into one server, maybe they get half their time back to do stuff on Hermitcraft, but like aside from that, they don't really benefit at all because their audience is already in both places. We are once again out of grass. And again, it feels like we're covering up the trees, and I was talking earlier about how trees make a landscape feel much more natural, but this helps it feel a bit more like a blank canvas, and I'm kind of happy with that. Hey, Commissar, welcome in. No worries if you missed notification. We're still going to be here for another hour. Just hanging out, building stuff. Should also make sure I'm muted just in case Fwip stops by. I don't want to just have him hearing me ramble constantly. That's all still draining through. Ollie, welcome in. How is Mario Kart? Hello. the rats are here. Hello, friends. Welcome on in. Ollie, thank you for the raid, bud. Thank you, mods, for giving a shout out to Ollie. Go and drop that lad a follow before he... Oh my goodness, everyone's raiding me now. What? Impulse? Oh, you play Mario Kart as well? I think you must have been. The double raid. Coming in hot. The double raid basically doubling my viewer count right now. What's up? Hello, friends. Welcome to Empires. You probably know this if you've been watching Ollie, and if you've been watching Impulse, to be fair, because Impulse was here not that long ago. Oh, it's Impulse's birthday? Heck yeah. Happy birthday, Impulse. Hope you had a good one. Hope you enjoyed Mario Kart. But yeah, welcome in. We're on Empires today. I'm working on my builds over here at the ancient capital, terraforming this giant cliff. I can take a quick look at it from over here and show you. Let's land on this tree. Oh, there we go. So I've been building this, I'm thinking of it as a plateau for a little while. Flattened it out over there where it was a natural mountainside. And I've terraformed this entire cliff. We did a bit of pathing around the outside. And now I'm working on basically blending it with the existing landscape up here. And this whole thing is going to be the home to a big castle that I'm planning on building. Yeah, I really like the texturing going on here. I like the little boulders and stuff. I'm very happy with those. And we're going to do a bit more. There's going to be a river that comes down here and flows through the town, because right now I haven't really built a huge amount of it. Yeah, I just wanted to get building on something that was really going to radically change the way things look around here, because this place has been static for too long, and I needed something to really shake some life into it. And I don't have any ideas for, like, structures right now, because most of what I'm basing this on is, like, ruined architecture, and half the time I think, well, I've got to build something to look ruined, so I've either got to build something and then destroy part of it, or, alternatively, I've got to build something that looks like it's been destroyed all along, which is such a weird concept to get your head around. So, I think terraforming is one of those things that I can do... not like with my eyes closed, at least, because it still needs to look good, but I can do it because it follows a natural shape without worrying too much about it looking structural and ruined all at the same time. So that's the direction I'm taking things right now. Ollie, thank you for the 7 months. I'm a Pix fan. I don't care who knows. Ollie and I played a bit more of Elden Ring co-op the other day, and we had an absolute whale of a time. So there might be a spot for him on the squad. He might be popping up in future Elden Ring streams once he's back from his trip. We will see. But yeah, we'll try and figure something out at least. What's triggering the bell? The bell has been just ringing non-stop since the museum security system was activated. But it's actually quite fun. I've been leaving it there because occasionally it highlights like where witches and pillagers and stuff are. So I've just sort of been leaving it for now until I can go and switch it off on camera. Useless Rogue, thank you for gifting a sub to Impulse. And Tricia, thank you for the 5 gifted out to the community. Folks, thank you so much. And if you're sticking around from the raid, please do drop a follow if you're brand new here. But obviously if you got to raid and run, that's entirely fine. I know people got places to be. Just how much is a whale of a time? There's a lot of them. It's a big creature having a fantastic time. Cliff looks like the Great Plateau. Yeah, I'm thinking a combination of the Altus Plateau from Elden Ring and the Grand Plateau from Breath of the Wild. Nixcraft, thank you so much for the 27 months. Welcome back. That is quite a few months. You are correct. Great to have you back. Hope you're well. Prefer to have a skyfish of a time. Fair enough. So yeah, it's just going to be some chill grass placement on today's stream for the most part. And luckily the trees are actually providing a scaffolding for all of this. Lethan Jenkins, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Brand new sub to the channel. Enjoy your emotes and your sub badge. Welcome to the Pixels. And gifting out 10 subs as well. Oh my goodness, so generous of you. Thank you very much. Folks in the chat, if you got gifted a sub, make sure you thank these very generous sub gifters for hooking you up. We did have a hype train not too long ago, but it is always lovely to get a little more support here on the Twitch channel. Says, thanks for all the work you've done for Hermitcraft Recap. Oh, you are welcome. It's an absolute delight. Especially with everybody right now being into TCG, I feel like one of the things we always look for when we're writing Hermitcraft Recap is connecting threads between the work everyone's been doing in their videos, right? And with the trading card game going on, it's like it's so easy to do because it's like people are battling each other constantly, or you know, you just leap from person to person in terms of the other projects they're doing, where like the connecting thread is they're doing something that isn't TCG, and like there's so much fun you can have with that. But obviously, I'll say it again because I've been saying it all stream, and I'm just really excited for it. If you know the recap, you know our work, but you want to know a little bit more about us, and you want to get an inside look in the other stuff that we like to do, ZloyXP and I have been streaming on Twitch together. We started playing Elden Ring on stream yesterday. It is a more mature game, so my streams are rated 18+, and I put the mature tag on here on Twitch and stuff because there's a lot of gory detail in that game, but if you're into that, then I would love a few more people to show up and check them out, because me and Zloy are going to have a lot of fun. We're streaming using the Seamless Co-op mod, so you can actually play the entirety of Elden Ring with another player in your world, which breaks a lot of the balance of that game, but in a way that is going to be hilarious. And it's Zloy's first time playing, so we have a little Hermitcraft recap after dark, basically, yeah. Speaking of after dark, I need to get some sleep right now. And then, yeah, we're just going to be playing that here and there, off and on, for a little while. There's, potentially going to be another stream of that this weekend, although it may have to wait until Wednesday, depending on what else is going on this weekend. How's the Empire coming along? It's going pretty well, at least the landscape is. And the buildings should hopefully follow that. It's no chicken block, but it's still good. Yeah, chicken block was a field day. It was very, very fun. But yeah, we had multi-stream links going yesterday, so you could see it from both of our perspectives, as a dragon landed in front of ZloyXP that he wasn't expecting, and yeah, we get to do all kinds of fun stuff in that game. Lady Ender, my Empire is one of your favorites. Well, thank you very much. It means a lot. And yeah, like for people watching the Elden Ring streams, you'll get to see kind of where a lot of the inspiration for the architecture around here has come from. For example, the building that you leave for the first time as you enter Limgrave, the main area of the beginning of Elden Ring, at least. There's this structure that you walk out of that kind of has this pedestal and then a statue above it. Obviously, the proportions are a little bit different here, but that was absolutely modeled off like that building in Elden Ring. And there's like other bits and pieces, like the way I'm designing this castle is going to have burnt sections and like holes in it from what you presume would be siege weaponry or dragon fire or something like that, and there's going to be a lot of stuff like that. Even the fact that I'm building in a savannah is because when you start the game and the opening area has this very kind of like golden grass color, because everything is like old and withering, and there's a lot of broken down houses and sort of Colosseum things that have been broken and almost like thrown around as though by giants. And that's really the style that I'm trying to emulate with base like this. Did Liara mod both channels on her own the entire night? Seemingly, yes. I'll let Lee corroborate that, but yeah, we were streaming for, what, 4 hours, I guess? So, yeah. Ginger streams on Wednesdays, so Lee was doing a fantastic job of looking after the chat herself. Although, obviously, it's going to be a quieter stream and a mature stream anyway, so we relax the channel rules a little bit in terms of language in chat and that kind of thing. Thank you very much, Mermicon Queen. We had a great time. How high am I building the plateau? Basically up to about here, because that's where the aqueduct comes in on this side. And then we might take the top off of this section here so it evens out a little bit more. But if we look at this from the side now... got a decent amount of landscape to it, and we might end up putting in like other cliff sections. I just want to get like a baseline height for the whole thing, and then it depends whether we put in any more landscape features, how we start building the castle around those. Do we build the castle first and then decide, hey, this tower looks kind of tall, maybe it would work better if it had something built around the base of it, and so there was like landscape coming up there, and like correct the proportions by, you know, stretching the landscape to fit that. I think that'd be kind of a neat way of approaching it. Can chuck this gunpowder away since we collected that. All right. They've released a release candidate for 119.4. Nice. Yeah, I've not been too focused on the pre-releases for 119.4. I'm more interested in the update for 1.20, but obviously that's not going to be for a little while yet, so... They're releasing a lot more, like, minor versions lately for all of those little tweaks. But the big features are the ones I tend to get interested in. Better to prep the canvas first? Yeah, absolutely. That's sort of the direction I'm headed with this. Oh, hang on. I can do this. I can do this. Give me a second. Oh, almost. The trick is to, like, jump off an area like this and then kind of bounce. Like that. There we go. Can't wait for 1.20. Yeah, I'm really hyped for it. It's not going to be an unintentional mob farm. I'm still going to go and, like, light up a lot of this stuff. But realistically, for it to be a farm, we'd actually have to, you know, do something about it. There'll be some areas that there's going to be darkness, but I will do my best to light things up. And who knows, maybe we can incorporate that into the castle somehow. Maybe there's a dungeon that just takes you down to this layer. There's a couple of pixels poking through from the grass that we put on the top side. The trees underneath it looks kind of cool. I know, right? So there's an area of Elden Ring which I won't say too much about in case people end up wanting to play it, and I'm not going to spoil too much for you, but you do go underground for a section of it that is a lot bigger than you expect it to be at first. And there's like trees and stuff growing underground and ancient structures that are there, and it's unclear whether that stuff has just has like sunk into the earth over time or if it like always existed there, but there's some really fascinating area that it seems like it'd be kind of cool to emulate in Minecraft, especially now we have the height to do that with. It'd be like going underneath this area and finding goblands down there, you know? Ignore that. Don't need to worry about it. Forgot about Elden Ring, gonna install it right away. Might be part of the reason I picked a cave base, yeah. Yeah, I do remember there being early discussions about this season and Fwip just being like, I might just build my base under Joel's. I just slowly start to encroach on his territory. It's a land grab is what it is. And Paymeister, since you're asking, we already mentioned this earlier, but I didn't ever release the Survival Guide 1 world for download. I had this notion that I was going to finish building the museum off camera, but then I never ended up doing that because it felt like basically a lot of work that I was doing to not make videos, and I just didn't have the time to do it. But I really feel awkward both saying I was going to finish the museum and then not doing it, but also releasing something that feels unfinished. So eventually I just kind of never did. I'm glad you enjoyed the series back then. I hope you've been enjoying my other stuff in the meantime, but since you're here, I assume you are. We'd love for someone in Season 3 to go the Bond villain route and have a secret lair in the mountains, yeah. Yeah, I'm interested in what we'd end up doing with a hypothetical Empires Season 3. We haven't talked about whether we're doing a third season or not yet. But obviously it's a popular series, so I kind of hope so in a way. But I have a couple of vague ideas I've been thinking about, but it really depends what type of style everyone else wants to go with. Like, I think it would be really fun to do a more modern feeling Empires, but again, modern is the kind of thing that some people really don't like building, or, you know, modern or contemporary, or like where you place that along a timeline is kind of a weird one. And also, we didn't expect this season to tie so much into Season 1, but obviously, like, Sausage has done a lot of that, and a few other folks have kind of incorporated Season 1 stuff into their Season 2, with this being the same world, but at a different time and a different place. Needs to at least be a trilogy, right? A sequel where Jimmy finally gets his villain arc. Hey, let the man cook. He's got some stuff going on. Survival Guide 1 was where I started with Minecraft, so it kind of taught me everything I know. To be honest, it feels like where I started with Minecraft, in a really weird way, considering that I'd already been playing Minecraft for like 6 years by that point. But it was the series that taught me a lot of stuff. Like, beyond the fact that it was a tutorial series aimed at other people, I was learning as I went with so much of it, especially the technical stuff. Like, I'd never built an iron farm before that series. And so it really felt like I was exploring new territory myself alongside trying to teach other people what I already knew. Teaching others is a great way to learn new things yourself because you get lots of questions and thoughts you never thought of. Oh yeah, absolutely. But just trying to come up with new things to make videos about was like, well, okay, I guess I'm learning how to do that then. The Season 2 Iron Farm is the first major technical thing that I have memorized. Yeah. It's amazing how simple that stuff can get. And there's even simpler farm designs out there. That was just one that I figured out myself. Starting from scratch with newer mechanics, you know? I've become the Iron Farm person on 2 different servers now. Love that. Always good to be in demand. And now I'm the redstone expert on this server. I wouldn't count some of the others out. Like, some folks have done some pretty cool stuff, but I do like the fact that I'm one of the more technical people. Yeah, I'm excited to build some stuff on here. I think we could even have like a couple of secondary cliff things just to bring everything up to one level. Even where the landscape here dips down, you can imagine other stuff going in its place. I just need it all to connect for now so that my brain can work on the next stage of it. And maybe even get a world download so that we can mess around in creative for a little bit. Spend a weekend designing castle bits to throw up here gradually. What do I think of the cherry blossom biome? I think it's great. I'm so excited we actually have a vanilla cherry blossom biome for a Minecraft world. That's something I genuinely thought, like, there are some things about this game that you think are always just going to be something they've added in modded, and there are iterations of that in modded, but it's been in modded for so long that nobody's gonna bother adding it to vanilla because it's been done so much already. But obviously, if the team does that, then they're limiting so many of the ideas that they could have, and popular ideas, because loads of people have done them before. But the cherry groves was one of those things that I thought we're probably not going to get cherry wood and cherry blossom in Minecraft because so many mods have already done it that it sort of feels superfluous in a way. But it being part of vanilla Minecraft means that vanilla players get to mess around with that stuff, and you know, people who aren't necessarily interested in playing modded still get to see that as part of their world. Vanilla cherry blossom biome and trees look better than most of the modded ones I've seen. Fair enough. I mean, Mojang has... Oh, yeah, I can test stuff. Let me get my headphones on. Yeah, Mojang has, like, a team that is dedicated to doing all of this stuff and is paid to do all of this stuff, and they iterate on things so much more than I think even the modding community with all of its dedicated people really does. So it's fun. And yeah, consoles, Bedrock, they're the majority of players. They're not going to get as many mods as Java players do. Alright, just so we don't echo too much here. I assume this is over at Gobland. So let me throw some stuff in these boxes. Gobland front door. Okay, good. Love this. Okay. On my way. As long as my elytra still has durability. Ooh. Elytra rings. Hit a couple of them on the way. Hello!
Hello, sir. I need your help. I'm working on a little wonky contraption, and I
Okay.
need somebody to input some items for me so I can see where they fly. If
Okay.
that makes sense. Cool, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
sure.
All right, come this way. And this you can't tell the sheriff. You can't tell the sheriff, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
So
I've
I
heard that
currently
guy's
have
been,
a pipe that is
gotta-
coming up out of the ground from a
Ooh.
creeper farm down underneath, which is why you can't tell the sheriff.
Right.
And in typical goblin fashion, I want to make the gunpowder jump. I want to make it fly out of this pipe. I think it's going to get all the way through here and up. And I need somebody to go underneath and send some gunpowder into the system so I can see where it lands. I'm hoping it hits the little netherrack right there.
Oh, fun. Okay, that works. Yeah. Okay,
Actually, you know what? Here. I'll go down and check it out. I'll throw some in, and you can just see where it lands up there. I'll be real quick.
All right, that makes sense. It does help if he knows where stuff's going to go. Waiting for the items to go splish splash. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Oh, and it's it's nowhere near. Oh no. Oh, a couple of them are.
Oh no, we're short.
Okay. So two things are happening as far as I can tell. Most of it is landing right there, like it's just kind of flopping out of the end of the pipe.
Huh,
But-
I wonder if that
but,
trapdoor's
like,
catching it.
It might be, but then like 2 or 3 of them did end up landing on the netherrack. So some of them have more momentum than others.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm wondering if it's something to do with the water flow, because I know entities can slow down in the last couple of spaces of a water stream.
Okay. Do you think blue ice would help? I could get that's just regular packed ice in here.
Thing is, entities tend to stay on top of the water stream instead of really like getting any friction from the bottom of it now. So the ice doesn't really matter that much. I think if the water stream started a couple of blocks back, then no, the other way around. Like if the water stream starts a couple of blocks further forward, and then you just block it at the end with like a sign or a fence gate that's not going to impede the items flying.
And then we do ice.
And the ice should be fine as is. But yeah, I think they just need a bit more momentum, or they need to not be slowed down by those last 2 bits of the water stream.
I'm using a tango trick I learned here. Scaffolding. Scaffolding apparently is the way to go.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I am curious.
No, it's still dropping.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's...
Okay, you know what? Back to the goblin engineering desk.
Sounds good. Glad I could help.
Yeah, thank you. I'll figure this out.
All right, I'm getting back to my cliff. See you in a bit.
Good luck.
I like flying back over here now and seeing this come into view, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, that landscape is very different from what it was. Canada Ham with the half nerd. Thank you so much for the 6 months. Alright, we just got moss in there for now. No worries, Lady Ender. I'm glad to be your introduction to Twitch. Yeah, I haven't done too much, like, kinetic contraptions like that with items moving around, and I find that, like, entity movement and item movement and stuff like that tends to be one of the less consistent mechanics in the game. It's like when you're trying to create, like, a slime block elevator or, like, something that's going to bounce you around from one place to another, like, how it's way better to do that with a minecart, because a minecart will move consistently, but a player won't always, and, like, the player's hitbox is kind of harder to hit in some areas. Like, I feel like I'm like that with items. I just want the items to go somewhere as quickly as possible, and like, the more kind of, like, Rube Goldberg machine kinetic contraption side of things doesn't always work for me. So I'm less experienced with that side of engineering. Interesting to see how close we are to Fwip there. Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, he hasn't... I think he mostly decided to start making those rails so that he could mess with people, but since, like, I don't really have, like, the character thing going on this season, it didn't make as much sense for him to connect to me. But, like, connecting it to the castle once the castle is built would be pretty fun. There being this kind of underground railroad out of there feels like something that might exist. Hey, welcome in, Credstone. Hope you're staying safe out there, buddy. Hey, Price, thanks so much for the 2 months. Rare actually catch one of these streams live, so used to watching the replay. Well, welcome in. We're going to be here for another half hour or so of basically just placing grass blocks, but I hope you enjoy that. And, yeah, we've been working on a lot of this today. We've done a lot of landscaping. Like, not this entire thing, but close to it. All of the grass has been placed on this stream, and a lot of the mud and rooted dirt and stuff has been placed on this stream. I'm really happy with how this new addition to the base is coming together. And then hopefully I can start building on top of this real soon. How do I not work for Mojang yet? Working for Mojang is not the end goal of most Minecraft streamers. You might be interested to know. I mean, it's kind of interesting, really, because people see amazing creations in Minecraft, and they're like, you should design stuff for Mojang, but a lot of the time, Mojang is not as interested in adding amazing builds to Minecraft by default as you might think. A lot of the time, they are really just interested in providing tools for the player to create their own amazing stuff. And that's what I am. I'm a player who tries to create amazing stuff. So you find that a lot of people are much more interested in being creative, whereas working for Mojang, the reality is going to be a lot more of, like, drafting gameplay ideas and the kind of stuff that I'm not necessarily... I don't have the skill set for, you know? Like, I'm a player of the game, I'm not a designer. Yeah, Mojang needs resource designers and coders. I am neither. Honestly, I don't even have, like, whenever people ask me what I would add to Minecraft, I rarely have that many good ideas. Although it's the kind of thing that, if you work there, I imagine a certain amount of that stuff comes up in team, like, creative sessions and brainstorming and that kind of thing. Just, like, throwing ideas at each other and bouncing off the good ideas that other people in the team generate. But I often don't know where to begin when somebody asks me that question, you know? How many people at Mojang actually play the game? I expect all of them. Like, some of them were... I mean, a lot of them, I expect, were Minecraft players first and foremost. Like, you look at folks like King B-Dogs and Nembon, who've been hired onto the team after working with the modded community for a while and, you know, kind of pioneering stuff within Minecraft's regular gameplay. But then, those are people who are also very talented coders. So cool that they tested, they updated the Desert Temple and Desert Wells. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since those structures were added to the game, and it's really exciting to see updates to them. See, we've been talking about, like, getting a structure update for a while and adding new life to stuff like that, but I wasn't expecting it to be something that came up this way, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like a really interesting way of introducing a kind of low-key structure update that doesn't involve completely redesigning those things. It just means redefining a couple of things about what players can expect to find there. It's not like the old desert temples get wiped away from the game. It's that now they actually have like a second secret chamber, and the suspicious sand is there, and there's some really interesting value being added to them without players being like, well, I like the old desert temples, they should put those back, you know? That and armor trims were great for structures in general. Yeah, I mean, you've got plenty of reason to go raid a woodland mansion now, where before it was like, well, I can get my Totems of Undying much safer from doing, like, from building ENX04's raid farm, you know? Like, there's actually a reason to go back to woodland mansions again now. Like, you don't even need the Vindicators anymore because of zombified villagers being a much more stable, a much easier mob switch option, so the main reason to go to a woodland mansion was because they existed. Because you get a map to them, and it turns out they're 10,000 blocks away. I'd like tool trims too, though. I think stuff like that might arrive eventually, but it's another example of the way this community reacts to new features is that you immediately think of half a dozen other things that would be amazing but would probably take a long while to implement and get right whenever they add something new, even if it's cosmetic, you know? For how rare the mansions are, it's unfortunate there's not any great reason to go to them. Yeah, I mean, it used to be the case that that was the only place you could get totems, but then they added raids, and now you can go there to get a laze. I suppose that's another thing that's added value to woodland mansions, but you can also find them in pillager outposts and then duplicate them as of 119.1, so yeah. Oh man, I'm getting hungry. I started talking about ordering takeaway food earlier, and now my stomach is growling. Let's start flattening this part off, I think. Ginger, stop. I've got another 25 minutes of stream left. Stop waving food under my nose. Delicious food. An auto crafting table would be a nice addition to vanilla. On the one hand, it might be. On the other hand, I think some people don't want to automate crafting and would see that as a really bad addition to the game. There are certain principles that this game typically follows, and the player having to manually do stuff is an important part of that. We've already invented a bunch of solutions to make mass crafting stuff a relatively efficient process. But I think auto-crafting would have to come with some pretty severe disadvantages. Otherwise, you could have people playing Minecraft without ever really playing Minecraft, if you know what I mean. Just want to be able to put slabs vertically. Well, look forward to Hytale coming in, I don't know, 2030 or whenever they're going to release that game. Yeah, or play modded. Try chisels and bits. Or any other mods that add, like carpenter's blocks. Anything like that. Was that sarcasm? Decide for yourself. Yeah, we've placed a lot of blocks in the last half hour. We are creating a lot of dark space under here. And I'm also running out of torches. It's a good thing I grabbed a bit of wood from here earlier. I mean, there's only 2 planks of it in there, but there's more of it earlier. And 2 planks worth of torches does go a long way. Any speculation on what this year's April 1st release will be? Honestly, I couldn't even guess, because I could not have predicted 1 block at a time. But if it's something that has the same vibe as 1 block at a time, like it's a weirdly playable joke, then I might give it some I landed that and I didn't even... I might give it some serious consideration. Because I had so much fun with 1 block at a time. What have people been whining about the most lately? Honestly, if they made the April Fool's update this year just something called the mild update, it would be really funny. April Fool's 1.20, we're adding birch forests. Jen, thank you for the raid. Welcome in. So many raids today. Oh my goodness. Really appreciate the raid, folks. Thank you so much for stopping in. Hope your stream went well, Jen. What were you up to today? Yeah, fireflies and birch forests coming to the 2023 April Fool's update. Bing-powered villager AI. Oh, goodness. We've put NFTs and Chat GPT into Minecraft. April Fool. April Fool's update this year should be oops all birch. Yeah, right. You like birch forest so much, every biome is now a birch forest. The Mojang is lazy update where everything is a bed. Including air blocks. Good luck. We got another one. There's a witch there. You have to sleep every 60 ticks, yeah, or phantoms forever. What if an April Fool's update where they basically made every change that Xylephian jokes about on Twitter? I will pull up some examples. I mean, Xylephian's pinned tweet is the wandering trader ready to punch you in the face because you right-clicked him without any emeralds. Someone threw away the post-it note that had the password for Minecraft.net written on it. The team is currently trying to solve a password recovery escape room that was set up for such an occasion. What if they did that in an April Fool's update, and in order to log in, you had to solve an escape room? What if we were to give horses swords? They could hold them in their mouth and attack any monsters that come near them. And then he says, if this is successful, maybe we could also introduce this idea to Minecraft. They didn't let me add motorcycles to Minecraft. I argue it would be balanced because the player wouldn't have the keys, so they couldn't ride them. They should just let Xylephian do the entire April Fool's update by himself. Okay, one more. Never seen anyone in the Minecraft community perform a kickflip with a copy of the Minecraft. I think that says a lot about Minecraft players. That's almost one. Allow players to kickflip. The warden would probably drink English breakfast tea. Yeah. Add that to Minecraft. Warden now drinks tea instead of attacking the player. If they're adding cherry blossoms, the April Fool's update should add allergies. Oh gosh, a hay fever meter. You got to keep a piece of paper around to blow your nose with. The warden just wants a throat lozenge. Something else they could add with an allergies update. Player drops tea when killed by the warden. And then my tea spilled everywhere. As I live and breathe, as I live and breathe. When I actually start this castle, am I legally required to put the word mega base somewhere in the title? Is that like are people gonna report me on YouTube if I don't? It'd be tax evasion if you don't. Sorry, sir, you've not paid your megabase tax. How about ultra base to be original? Or Omega or Giga, your choice, yeah. My heptadeca base. How about just something small to be obtuse, yeah, right? Going to be titled, I guess you could call this a mega base, and the thumbnail will just be me shrugging in real life. Average size base, you're standing too close so it looks mega. Minecraft April Fools 2023. All bases are now mega bases. We don't make the rules. Oh wait, we do. You should see my other base. My other base is in Elden Ring. My other base is the round table hold. Thinking of other definitions of base, like acids and bases in chemistry, yeah. The mega base is just like a foundation of something. Well, we have sort of connected that to the top of this plateau now, which is weird. But I think we are close to wrapping up here. I'll grab a couple more stacks of grass, but then we'll finish up there. Ding ding. What was my build in Elden Ring? I started as a Confessor. I'm just going for a Strength Faith build. I might end up using the Golden Halberd because we beat Tree Sentinel on that stream, but I'm probably just going to main Lord Sworn's Greatsword for now, probably add Golden Vow to that, and start working on incantations so I can get the Crucible Knight set, and then we'll see from there. I also quite like the idea of getting lightning at some point. Like, I found one of the lightning spells on my single-player playthrough that I hadn't found before, which is really weird, but, like, there's so many areas of Elden Ring that you just don't explore, you don't find stuff. So, yeah, I'm building for Strength, Faith, Incantation-based, and we'll see where it goes from there. It also depends heavily on what Zloy XP actually takes us towards and we find, because he's kind of the one steering, and I don't want to just run off and get the stuff that's good for me and leave him in the lurch. Rushed Blasphemous Blade on my first run as a strength incantation run. It was really fun to get. Yeah, Blasphemous Blade is apparently the most broken weapon in the game right now, so that could work. I mean, either that or I think Moog's Spear is the one everyone uses for Malenia now, but there's a good amount you can get out of Blasphemous Blade. I tell you what, placing all of this grass is really justifying my decision to play with speakers on, because I feel like this noise over and over again on headphones is really starting to grate on me. This is the kind of thing where in like a non-stream setting, I'd probably turn down block sounds. Oh, that's way nicer. I should probably just have done this the whole time. But that I just have like a stream on my second monitor or something. Why does grass make a huge crunch anyway? For a while, this was like the default sound effect for so much stuff. Like, any new dirt blocks made exactly the same noise. Leaves breaking makes the same noise. Breaking crops, I think, even made the same noise, right? Yeah, TNT. Like, all of the blocks that were part of Minecraft Classic, I feel like, all make the same noise except for stone. This is one of those sound effects that was part of the early releases of the game that's never really changed. Or maybe it has and I've just, like, not noticed. That's a thunderstorm, which I presume Whip is not triggering manually. Maybe Whip wants charged creepers for his farm. Imagine if charged creepers gave you like a stack of gunpowder each or something. Imagine how ridiculous gunpowder farms would be. How about baby charged creepers? Oh, goodness. There are some mods that add baby creepers that basically just blow up one block when they explode, which is adorable. But I imagine baby charged creepers being the same size, but still being able to blow up the radius that a regular creeper does. And that would be dangerous. All right, that's where we'll leave it for today. 3 blocks of grass left. If they can fit under a trapdoor, then gosh. Because they are, like, slightly shorter than 2 blocks, aren't they, creepers? That's hilarious. All right, that's where we'll leave it for today. Still wearing the headphones, but I'm going to take these off in a sec. We'll find somebody to raid. Thank you so much to all of y'all for sticking around, especially if you joined us from one of the other raids earlier. Thanks again to Impulse, Genfire, Ollie. Thank you all for the raids. Thanks to everyone who cheered some bits, gifted some subs. Thank you to the mods for their hard work as ever. We're not going to raid Bruno today, even though I want to. He's playing half-hearted hardcore, but he could be playing Minecraft Bingo, so joke's on him, I guess. Let's see who else is out here. Let's go raid Tab Twice. Tab Twice is playing modded, which is unusual. Looks like it's an all the mods 7 playthrough. So I'm gonna go raid Tab today. Which is just Tab Twice. Tab isn't always family friendly. She tends to keep it clean when we raid in, but you've been warned. There's occasional adult language and adult conversation, but a lovely welcoming stream. So go over and say, hey, use your Pixel Hype emotes and the hashtag PixelRaid to show some love. I'll be resubbing while I'm over there, and then see if I can get hold of Whip for a quick recording, and then maybe I'll have something ready for an Empires episode soon. Who knows? Anyway, thanks so much for being here. I'll see you guys this weekend for another stream. Keep an eye out on Twitter just in case we do any more Elden Ring stuff this weekend as well. In the meantime, have a good one. My name's Pixel Riffs. I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.